a big turnaround for Texas Senator and former presidential candidate Ted Cruz. The Republican is now officially endorsing Donald Trump for president. In a Facebook post, Cruz says after months of careful consideration and prayer, he has decided to vote for the GOP nominee on Election Day. The decision comes after Cruz snubbed Trump at the Republican National turned nasty between the two rivals. So what does a Cruz endorsement mean for Donald Trump? That's our topic this half hour, and we want to hear from you on our Fox 26 Facebook page. You can also weigh in on Twitter. Just send me a tweet at Sally Mack, Fox 26. Joining us live in the newsroom is our panel led by our senior legal analyst, Chris Tritico, Democratic media consultant, Mustafa Tamiz, and former Harris County Republican Party chairman, Jared Woodfill. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Again.
Good morning.
So what does this endorsement mean for Donald Trump, and was it a surprise to you?
I don't know that it means a whole lot for Donald Trump. I think it has more problems for Ted Cruz potentially than it helps Donald Trump down the line. After everything that Donald Trump said about Ted Cruz and his family and the line that Ted Cruz drew in the sand, but he had a lot of pressure on him in the last week to try to unify the party. But how do you come back after somebody says that about your wife, says your father murdered Ted Kennedy, John Kennedy, says all those things, then turn around and says, I'm going to vote for this guy?
You draw a line in the sand saying principles before politics, and then you say, well, really, politics before principles, and that's really what happened here. Ted Cruz was very threatened with the fact that he may have a primary opponent in this next coming election. He's going to be on the ballot in 2018, and he got lots of pressure from Senator Patrick, who is the chair of, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, who's the chair of Trump's campaign, and so he buckled, and politics, politics.
Not 2 months ago, less than 2 months ago, Ted Cruz stood in front of the Texas contingent at the Republican National Convention and said, I cannot support someone who said those things about my wife.
Well, you got a couple of things. I think, one, this is huge. This is great for Donald Trump. This is great for our efforts to win the presidency. The reality is he made a pledge. He made a commitment in the debates that he was going to support the nominee. The nominee is Donald Trump, one. Secondly, he is very concerned about the Supreme Court and their potential for 4 justices to be appointed. And so he said, I'm going to put my personal dislike behind me and look out for the good of the country and make sure this party is unified so that Trump is successful in November. And I give him all the credit in the world for being willing to do that.
So tell me how this helps. How does this help Donald Trump? Well, really, all of Ted Cruz's people are livid.
Well, no, I disagree. I think there are some, but there is a huge faction that are now saying, okay, Ted's right, I'm with him. We've got to be unified as a party to make sure, one, that the Supreme Court is filled with folks like Justice Anton Scalia going forward, and that the Second Amendment is protected, the First Amendment is protected, and so forth. So I think this is huge in that it brings the Cruz supporters behind Donald Trump and make sure we're not a divided but a unified party.
Let's go to Sally. She's monitoring our social media.
Okay, let's check in on Twitter now and see what some of our viewers there are saying. At Take It From Tia says Cruz endorsing Trump, conveniently announced as 2 former Clinton aides granted immunity in the email scandal, and she's using the hashtag 6 degrees of separation. Donald Trump just yesterday finally tweeting a comment about the endorsement, and he says that the Cruz endorsement was a wonderful surprise. I greatly appreciate his support. We will have a tremendous victory come November 8th. At Stephen at Home says Cruz endorsing Donald Trump because, like the saying goes, if you can't beat him, let him humiliate you for months and then join him, he says. And at Mr. Dane 1982 says, I thought Cruz was going to be a main contender against Clinton in 2020, but he believes he committed political suicide by endorsing Trump.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Really going to be a big political boom for Donald Trump today.
It won't be a political boom, and to be honest, this is not going to be one way or the other remembered about Ted Cruz. I mean, he's just going to move on in this and run in 2000. I don't think it goes one way or the other, but it goes to show you that here's Ted Cruz, who railed against the fact that he is so principled, that he stood, that this is who I am, and I will stand here and I will fight for my principles, and da-da-da-da-da. But again, politics came first, and so he shows you who he is.
And doesn't that hurt, leaving this election out, doesn't that hurt Ted Cruz in 2020 when he comes back and says, I want to be your president? I'm the principled conservative, and everybody says, wait, let's look at this.
Well, the principled conservative is someone who puts the good of the country ahead of their own personal feelings, and that's what Senator Cruz has done. He said, I'm more concerned about getting rid of Obamacare than I am about how I feel about some personal insults. I'm more concerned about the Supreme Court than I am about what someone said about my wife. And that's what we're looking for in our elected officials, someone who will put their principles and their concern about the country ahead of their own personal feelings. And that's a badge of courage.
Final thought, we got to go.
He's neither principled nor he's putting the country's interest first.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. We'll be back in the next hour with 2 really good topics.
Okay, we look forward to seeing you guys then.